Hello and good morning students. I welcome you all to yet another video lesson on our education subject. Today I'll be discussing with you all chapter 4 on the topic educational thinkers. So before going into the lesson, let me just give you a brief introduction to the chapter. In this chapter, we will be discussing about different educational thinkers and philosophers and their contribution to education. So being a student of education or being an educationist, we must study the contribution of great philosophers and thinkers, as our present system and methods of education are all due to the innovative ideas, thoughts of those great philosopher, thinkers, and educators. So great philosopher, thinkers, and educators will be discussing about philosophers like Rousseau, Pestalozzi, Froebel, Maria Montessori, Rabindranath Tagore, Swami Vivekananda, and Mahatma Gandhi, since they have contributed a lot in the field of education. So moving on, let's go right into the lesson. So our first philosopher is John Heinrich Pestalozzi. So John Heinrich Pestalozzi was born in Switzerland on 12th of January 1746 at Zurich. He had received his early education from his mother. Okay, so even in the earlier days, Pestalozzi was treated as the odd one in the school, even in his school. And as he moved on with his life, he entered many professions, but he always had that inner belief that he will be able to leave a mark in the field of education. So that is the history of John Heinrich Pestalozzi. Moving on, we will look at Pestalozzi's naturalistic education. Naturalistic means one who is the lover of nature, one who is a realistic. Okay, so since the earlier days, Rousseau style of education or Rousseau philosophy of education had a great influence on Pestalozzi. He was the first to take educational theory and practice on what is said to be uniform laws of nature. So Pestalozzi said that the ultimate aim of education is unfolding what is already enfolded in the child. So while expanding this aim, we can conclude that he aimed at the all-round harmonious, natural, and progressive development through the process of education. So Pestalozzi, under his naturalistic education, he also founded the Anschauung method of education. So what is this Anschauung method? Anschauung means that knowledge should be earned. Pestalozzi developed the concept of Anschauung on object lesson, which was the principle that no word should be employed until it was thoroughly understood by concrete observation. So in this Anschauung method, let me just cite a quick example that, for example, you are asked to write an essay on this pen. So according to the Anschauung method, until and unless you thoroughly have the concrete observation of this pen, you thoroughly have the first-hand knowledge about this pen, you are not asked to employ that word, or you are not asked to employ or carry on with this very word pen. So whether it referred to a material object, an action, or a means of distinguishing one thing from another, Anschauung must be the first-hand knowledge. According to Pestalozzi, Anschauung must be the first-hand knowledge and not the second-hand one. So that is the Anschauung method of education under Pestalozzi's naturalistic education. Moving on, let's look at thoughts and practices in the field of education propounded or founded by Pestalozzi. So he propagated 5 disciplines. That is, first he focused on discipline, drawing, introduction to the new subjects, learning of language, and object instruction. So according to Pestalozzi, discipline. He propagated loving discipline or thinking love. He emphasizes on discipline with love. That was the first thought and practices of Pestalozzi, that is being disciplined. Second one is drawing. So drawing had an important place in the method of Anschauung. Okay, in the present system of education, it is being accepted because of Pestalozzi. And introduction of new subject matter. Through his tireless efforts, study of nature, different subjects like study of nature, geography, elementary science, arithmetic, especially dealing with mental arithmetic, got their place in the curriculum. All the subject that we are using now in the curriculum is all because of Pestalozzi's tireless effort in the field of curriculum development. learning of language. He introduced teaching of language through the use of phonetics, syllabics, because in the past days it was teaching of language was done only with the process of spelling and reading only, right? So, but as the time went on and on, Pestalozzi developed the teaching of language through the method of phonetics and syllabics. Phonetics means first you have to learn the language, and first you have to learn the language, and then you have to read the structure of that language that will be given to you. So that is about learning of language. And coming to the object instruction, it was the new method of learning in which he suggested that we study the object first and then study the word symbols. So it's more or less like the Angshuang method that we have discussed earlier. First we need to study the object, and then we need to discuss, or we need to read about the symbols. So that is the thoughts and practices of Pestalozzi in the field of education. Moving on, let's look at Friedrich Froebel. Friedrich Froebel, full name was Friedrich Wilhelm August Froebel. He was born on 21st April 1782 in Germany. So Froebel neither received early education nor received parental love or care. Okay, so like his early days were literally full of tears, and he was doing odd jobs until he turned the age of 14. A turning point came in his life when he joined the Pestalozzi School of Education at Yverdon. So after completing his studies, after completing his studies, he created the concept of kindergarten and coined the word, which soon entered the English language as well. So what is this kindergarten method? Many of you might know what is this kindergarten method. So kindergarten is a German word which means garden of children. In this, children are regarded as the plants, and the teacher is the gardener. So in this process, we all know that the gardener takes care of the plant, he molds the plant, and he nourishes the plant to grow beautifully, right? So teachers are regarded as the gardener, and the students are regarded as the plants. According to him, like school is a nursery of future citizens. Okay, so the social nature of child is taken into consideration, and cooperation, socialization, self-realization are given due importance in the process of education of kids. So here teacher takes care of the young ones, of the young children, for their natural growth and development in the area of education. So that is the kindergarten process. That is all about the kindergarten process that Froebel established. Moving on, we'll look at what how many characteristics did kindergarten process have. Okay, so kindergarten system is based on 3 characteristics, that is self-activity, social participation, and creativity. Self-activity means that the students should do all the activities by themselves. They need to have that self-creation, and self-activity classes should be there in the kindergarten method, so that the students learn more properly and more accurately. And social participation means that the students need to participate with the peer group, participate with the social groups, and they also need to produce the social participation in the kindergarten system of education. And creativity, there should be very much room for creativity of children in the kindergarten method, as those creativity will help the child to foster the harmonious development of the child. So self-activity, social participation, and creativity was the 3 main characteristics of the kindergarten method of education. Moving on, we'll look at the philosophy, or we'll study about Maria Montessori. So Maria Montessori was born on 31st August 1878, Chiravale in Italy. So Maria was the first woman in Italy to be honored the degree of Doctor of Medicine in the year 1896. She was a directress of a state-run school for mentally deficient children, means mentally retarded children, or mentally disabled children. So after spending almost 12 hours a day with these mentally disabled children, at night time, Maria used to work hard at night, making notes, tabulating, comparing, analyzing about these mentally deficient children, which in turn motivated her to established this Montessori system of education. So what is this Montessori system of education? So Montessori system or method is characterized by providing a prepared environment in order to help in the development of the child. So in the Montessori system of education, they use specialized learning materials to develop their own capabilities, to develop the capabilities of the children studying in the Montessori. Montessori method involves child-led activities. Children are first to initiate the activities. Children are made to do self-activity, and social participation is also taken into consideration, and it involves child-led activities. It focuses on educating the whole child, including physical, spiritual, social, mental, and emotional education. So it does not only focuses on one aspect of education, okay, but in the Montessori system of education, the physical, spiritual, social, mental, and emotional education is taken into consideration, and all this all-round development of the child is the main focus in the Montessori system of education. So what was the philosophy of Maria Montessori? So according to Maria Montessori, freedom in environment was the main principle of her system, and she was of the view that active help should be given to the child for his life expansion. So I think freedom in environment, or freedom to choose the environment, or freedom in environment to bring out their own creativity, bring out their innate characteristics. Freedom in environment was the main principle of the Montessori system of education, or it was the main principle of Maria Montessori. She was of the view that active help should be given to the child for life expansion, and development of the child should be from within, and external force should never be imposed on the child. So many a times, in order to let the child develop, we pressurize the child, or we lead the child in our own ways. But according to Maria Montessori, in order to come to the wholesome development of the child, there should never be external force to pressure the child or be imposed on the child, but development of the child should be from within, because child by its very nature is capable to learn. With the process of individual development, it must also lead to the social development, and self-learning should be encouraged. Self-learning, or learning by doing, should be encouraged in the Montessori system of education. So that is the philosophy of Maria Montessori, and there were three main type of activities in the Montessori system. Okay, so number one activity is exercise for sensory training. Exercise for sensory training should be given major importance, as self-education of the child can take place only through the proper development of senses. So exercise for sensory training was regarded very important, and that activity was given much more importance than any other activity, because as self-education of the child can take place only through proper development of the senses of the child. Number two is exercise for practical life should be practiced to take care of one's own self. So exercise for practical, like physical exercises, gymnastics, etc. All these exercises should be, all these activities should take place in the Montessori system to take care of one's own self. And number three is didactic or instructive exercises should be designed and used for teaching, writing, reading, and arithmetic for the children. So those were the main activities that was taken place in the Montessori system of education. So with that, we have come to the first part of our Chapter 4, that is Educational Thinkers. We have done with John Heinrich Pestalozzi. We have also done with Frederick Froebel Kindergarten, and Maria Montessori with the Montessori system of education. So I hope you have gained something from this video. I'll see you all in the next class, that is part 2 of Chapter 4, Educational Thinkers. Thank you all.